Hey, what's up? It's me, Lex. Bit of a shorter video for you today. Those who are in the know. I'm just going to be doing a short overview of the most recent teaser for Player Core 2. It's a Swashbuckler remastered. I recently put out a Swashbuckler video, so I figured this could serve as kind of like a follow-up, a bit of elaboration. I'm going to start with just reading through this, and then I have a build, including the new feat that they showed off, ready to go. Player Core 2 preview for the Swashbuckler. It is swinging into Player Core 2 with a fresh coat of paint to show off their style and swagger like never before. Swashbucklers fight fast and on their feet with flair. They dart between foes, gaining and expending panache to execute powerful and flamboyant finishers. When a swashbuckler hits their stride and lands their rolls, they create wonderful, memorable moments on the battlefield. However, this could be difficult to do consistently based on the encounter. In some low-threat encounters, swashbucklers easily dance around the battlefield, able to gain and use panache freely. But in severe and extreme fights, they often struggle to gain panache and use their class abilities. Additionally, many swashbucklers heavily relied on tumble through as their primary way to obtain panache, which led to less satisfying uses of tumble through instead of an exciting way to move dynamically around the battlefield. Our primary aim with the Swashbuckler's remaster was therefore to increase the consistency of the class to allow for more stylish moments. And here we have Jarell fighting an angry dwarf by Louis Salas Lastra. Some very nice art there. One way they've done this is through the new bravado trait, which we'll see in several places in the class. It's not only a bit more reliable for getting into panache, but allows Paizo to give more actions the ability to grant panache, allowing for more diverse options in combat. For instance, many swashbuckler styles might state that certain actions gain the bravado trait. The trait specifically says actions with this trait can gain panache, depending on the result of the check involved. If you succeed at the check on a bravado action, you gain panache, and if you fail but do not critically fail the check, you still gain panache, but only until the end of your next turn. These effects can be applied even if the action had no other effect due to a failure or a creature's immunity. Not all swashbucklers fight with honor. They're going to be introducing the new Rascal Swashbuckler style in the remaster, who aren't afraid to use underhanded tactics on the battlefield to show off their skills and thoroughly embarrass their foes with a dirty trick or two. They do what they need to do to gain advantage and are happy to let their opponents drop their guard before striking fast, leaving their foes in their dust before finishing them off, perhaps with a twirling throw. And this is the new feat that they introduced. It's a level 4 finisher. You must have the first level feat Flying Blade, which lets you do finishers with your thrown weapons. Your thrown weapons seem to defy physics as they soar through the air and spin back to you after a strike. Make a thrown weapon attack, ignoring the penalty for making ranged attacks within the second and third range increment. The weapon returns to your hand after the attack unless you critically failed on the attack roll. And then they have a little plug at the bottom here, where Player Core 2 is full of exciting remastered ancestries, classes, spells, and more, etc. Thank you to Joshua Birdsong, designer, for writing this up. My overall thoughts on the teaser here is that I think that giving various actions the bravado trait is very interesting. It's more in line with what they're doing with Champion as well, where they're tying a bunch of actions to a new aura instead of specifying in everything that it has to be a 15-foot range. So that's very interesting. I like that they're tying things into like modifying the base skills, but only for you. Rascal sounds exciting. The fact that they capitalized Dirty Trick makes me think that that might be a feat, or at the very least it's going to definitely be a theme for the class. I'm interested in what they're going to go with that. I'm assuming it'll be maybe something with thievery, pocket sand, etc. As for the new feat here that they added, it's very, very interesting. The usual limitation on the Flying Blade finishers is that it has to be within your first range increment. So being able to attack up to your third range increment, I believe the farthest range thrown weapon that has the Agile or Finesse trait has a range of 40 feet. It's an advanced weapon, so you'll have to pick up something like unconventional weaponry to use it effectively. But that could potentially get you a finisher with a range up to 120 feet that then returns the weapon to your hand unless you crit fail the attack roll, which is very interesting. I like that quite a lot. As for the build that I put together utilizing it, this is Whirler, a level 8 gymnast, which is the Swashbuckler style that gains panache from grapple, shove, and trip, and they are trained in athletics. They're going to pick up unconventional weaponry to be able to grab the uncommon option of the combat grapnel. This is literally just a grappling hook that you're using as a weapon. And admittedly, this build is a little bit reliant, not entirely, however, on asking your game master for permission to go outside of the written rules. The idea here is that as a swashbuckler, we're going to try and play everything up, you know? And so we have this grappling hook, and we're going to try and flavor as much of our movement and our attacks and the various things we do as using the grappling hook to hook onto a ceiling banister and swing and pull the grapple back, or like latch it into the ground and drag ourselves through the air. A bunch of flying, really cool stuff. I had a lot of fun imagining what this would look like in a more animated form than Theater of the Mind. We're going to be picking up Versatile Human for Fleet to get our speed as high as possible, and Flying Blades that we can meet the prerequisite at level 4. We're going to be picking up at level 2 the Wrestler dedication. This gives us expertise in athletics, the Titan Wrestler skill feat, which we want anyway as a gymnast. We get to ignore the -2 circumstance penalty for lethal attacks with our hands or unarmed attacks, which is neither here nor there for this build. And we get a bonus to our Fortitude DC when attempting to resist being grappled or swallowed whole, which can actually come up relatively frequently. We're also going to be picking up Combat Climber, and this is where it's going to rely a little bit on your game master to bend things, maybe at the cost of something from your background or something from your ancestry. It will still work without it, but we're going to be taking Combat Climber here. As written, this makes it so that you are not off guard when climbing, and you can climb with a hand occupied, but you still need another hand and both legs free. What we're going to be begging our game master to do is let us use our grappling hook as if it were a free hand for the purposes of climbing, so we can do some climbing around. We're still going to have to be making skill checks to move every single time, even with that. So if you need a little bit of balancing with your game master back and forth like that, even if they don't want to take away, say, something from your background, a skill feat, or perhaps your lore or something like that, it should be fine. At level 3, we're going to be taking the Toughness feat, because as a gymnast, and especially with this build with Wrestler, we are going to be getting in close to enemies and keeping them far away. We're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth. We have a lot of versatility in our range and what we can do here. And we're also going to be picking up a Rapid Mantle. This allows you to grab an edge using athletics instead of a reflex save. And when you succeed on grabbing an edge, you can immediately pull yourself onto the surface and stand. It's kind of just playing more into the grappling hook idea, and that would be another thing that I would ask the game master, hey, can I use my grappling hook to grab an edge? Moving on to level 4, we're picking up the new feat, which I just plopped into Path Builder here, Twirling Throw. So now we can make, as a finisher, a thrown weapon attack up to triple our range increment, and it will return to our hand unless we critically fail the attack roll. And so now I can get into why I chose the combat grappling hook here. It is a thrown range increment of 20 feet. So with Twirling Throw, we can go up to 60 feet with no penalties, which is extreme for any build, really. Because you're going to be able to add your strength modifier to your damage just as if it were a melee attack. It also has the tethered trait, which means that it is attached to your hand. As long as you have a free hand, including if you've just thrown a tethered weapon and have a hand holding nothing but the weapon's tether, you can use an interact action to pull the weapon back into your grasp after you've thrown it as a ranged attack or after it has been disarmed, unless it's held by another creature. This kind of ties even more into the build idea, the flavor, and the mechanics, where you have this kind of tied maybe around both arms. Maybe you have 2 grappling hooks, you know? But you're able to use your twirling throw to make ranged attacks up to 60 feet, still using your strength modifier for damage. And even if you hit that unfortunate, the weapon returns to your hand unless you critically failed. Even if you critically fail, you can just spend an action with the tethered trait, pulling it back. No harm done. And then additionally, it has the grapple trait so that we can utilize the grapple action when things getting close. We're a wrestler. We can wrap them up and start beating them up. At level, oh yes, and we finally pick up Hefty Hauler at level 4 so that we can carry a few more things for our party. We're kind of swinging around anyway. Why not get a comically large backpack? At level 5, we're going to take General Training to pick up Incredible Initiative. We just want to be able to act quickly in combat as a swashbuckler. We have high speeds. We have the desire to set up our panache as early as possible to set us up for future turns. At level 6, we're going to be taking Attack of Opportunity. It plays very well with Grapple in being able to lock enemies down, because it allows us to, if something moves into our range and we grapple them, if they really want to get to, say, your squishy wizard that you're trying to protect, they have to escape and then either step away or take a hit from you at no multiple attack penalty, which means you're going to be doing a sizable amount of damage. And the combat grappling hook has the finesse trait as well, so it'll be keying off of our highest stat, dexterity. Even if they are the same currently, because we have a partial boost. We'll also be picking up Powerful Leap so that we can leap now 20 feet with the leap action, or go farther with high and long jumps. This is going to play into at level 7 when we pick up Wall Jump. Another thing that we can very easily reflavor with our combat grappling hook. This allows you to, when you're adjacent to a wall at the end of a jump, whether it's a high jump, long jump, or leap, you do not fall as long as your next action is another jump. Which lets you also attempt to use a high jump or long jump as a single action while you're on the wall there, using your momentum from before. You can use wall jump only once a turn unless you're legendary in athletics, in which case you can use it as many times as you can use consecutive jump actions in that turn. And so in this case, we can kind of flavor our now 40-foot gap crossing capability as long as there's a wall somewhere that we can kick off of, as maybe you fling one half of your grappling hook up to the ceiling. You use a leap action and another leap action to continue as you kind of swing on it. A lot of flavorful descriptions. Might even earn you some panache, since Swashbuckler does encourage that. Be able to make some checks for your game master. And we're also going to be picking up Quick Climb, so that, assuming we are allowed to climb, we can go a little bit faster. And at level 8, to accompany our twirling throw, we're going to be picking up Whirling Throw from the Wrestler dedication. This is a little fun thing that I just wanted to grab. This allows you to, as an action, when you have a creature grabbed or restrained, throw it any distance up to 10 feet plus 5 times your strength modifier. So at this point, that would be your strength modifier 4, 20, plus 10 on the base, 30-foot throws. If you successfully throw the creature, it takes bludgeoning damage equal to your strength modifier plus 1d6 per 10 feet you threw it. So it would be 3d6 plus 4. Not our most powerful attack by any means, but certainly a good opportunity to get things away from our party while they'll have to spend actions closing the distance again, and we can continue to utilize our ability to throw our weapons. And especially because when we succeed at a grapple, we gain panache. So we grapple something, we use this action to attempt to throw them, and then perhaps with that panache, we can make a finisher, hit them with our grappling hook as they're flying through the air, or just as they hit the ground. To do so, though, you attempt an athletics check against the foe's fortitude DC, taking a -2 penalty if the target is one size larger than you, and a -4 if it's larger than that. Both of those are circumstance penalties. You get a +2 circumstance bonus if they're a size smaller than you, and a +4 if smaller than that. On a success, they go the desired distance. On a critical success, they also fall prone. On a failure, you fail to throw them, and on a critical failure, you fail to throw them and let go of them. Of note, and this is something that's important to touch on, one of the more gamey aspects of Pathfinder as a system is the forced movement rules. Anytime you, or anytime anyone makes another actor move, that is forced movement. And unless the ability that is allowing them to move them uses the specific words push or pull. So, for example, here, if I go into the actions and type in, not action, but shove, you see shove says you push your target 10 feet away from you, whereas reposition says you move the creature. If an ability does not say push or pull, it cannot move that foe into hazardous terrain. And hazardous terrain is anything that would be hazardous to them. So you cannot throw enemies into spikes, you cannot throw enemies off of cliffs, you cannot throw enemies into magma. You could throw them into, say, something like a mist spell, make it so that it is harder for them to see and they have to close the distance on you. But the TLDR of it is that you can't utilize things that don't specify it, like shove does, to get extra damage off with things like traps or walls of fire or any sort of effect. Of course, your game master is free to hand wave this given particular circumstances or just for the story that you want to tell. But these are the default rules. I just wanted to put that disclaimer there. Whirling throw is not going to be throwing someone 30 feet and off of a cliff, unfortunately for some. And then finally, we pick up water sprints. This is one of the more silly methods of utilizing the combat grappling hook I could think of. This allows you to, when you stride in a straight line, if you move at least half your speed over ground, you can move any amount of the remaining distance across a level body of water. But then you sink if you don't end that stride on solid ground. And if you are legendary in athletics, as long as you start on solid ground, any part of your stride can cross the water's surface, even not in a straight line, though you still fall into the water if you don't end your movement on solid ground. A lot of these abilities are going to stack on top of our high movement speed, both as a character and as a swashbuckler, including with panache. So we're going to be zipping around the battlefield, and specifically with the water sprint, the idea I had, and this was the more fantastical one, was perhaps fling one of your grappling hooks off of your arm to the other side and then leap up into the air dramatically and like drag yourself across. It's not realistic, but it's fun. Anyways, I'm excited for the future of the Swashbuckler. I likely will still not enjoy playing them because for me it's more of an action economy sort of balance thing where they're spending their most fun tools two actions doing so, even if those actions are also doing their own things, like being able to utilize a skill action and a strike. It's not my cup of tea, but this is certainly incredibly exciting. I've heard some great things about the future of Player Core 2, and the previews thus far have been extraordinarily exciting. Let me know in the comments down below what you would like to see next, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.